Um, I record all the classes and then I upload them to YouTube. So that way, also, if you ever miss class or you come to class and you forgot what happened, then you can kind of go back and review stuff. So I'm trying to make the most of all this multimedia, so folks online can join us, folks in the class can join with the folks online and with each other. And then, of course, if you miss anything, you can go back and see all the stuff we recorded. So that's kind of the basic premise of the class. Obviously, we're here to talk about Buddhism. And maybe we can start with a little exercise. So folks in the chat, feel free to chime in, join us, talk about things. I'm going to keep you open on the side to the extent that's reasonable. How's this? You guys like the lighting? All right, so here we have a sacred space. What can you tell me about the sacred space? What is this? Can you tell from any of the imagery what this space is? If I just showed you this image and I asked for a caption, what kind of caption would you give? I gotta do it like this.
It's like a service.
Somebody said something on.
Yeah, it says like a service.
It's like a service. This is Adam, right?
Yeah.
Hi, Adam. Thank you for talking. So Adam says it looks like a service. So what do you mean? What kind of service are you talking about, Adam?
It could be a funeral service. I see pictures. I see
Okay.
pictures.
Interesting. So Adam sees these pictures in the front and he thinks it looks like a funeral service. Did anybody else get that impression? Who do you think these figures are? There's pictures of some kind of people, right? It's a little blurry, so maybe you can't quite tell. Yeah. So who's the Dalai Lama? This one? Okay. So you are correct to say one is the Dalai Lama. And so why do you say numerical order? What is that talking about? Uh-huh.
And then they died, another one became the Dalai Lama.
So this one is the Dalai Lama. Yeah, exactly. So he's actually, so this is very good. What's your name? Sydney. And I'll learn your names eventually. Apologize. This is going to take me a little while. I know Jocelyn's name. She was in a class with me before. I'll probably embarrass her about that more than once. But so Sydney's right to say this is the Dalai Lama. There are multiple Dalai Lamas. Have you guys heard of the Dalai Lama before? This is actually a nice place to start. One reason I'm showing you this particular image is this is exactly what I know the most about. Do you guys know where the Dalai Lama is from? Tibet. Yeah. You guys heard of Tibet before? Yeah, so I speak Tibetan. I guess first of all, so yes, it is Tibet. Where is Tibet? That's sort of a harder question. Where is Tibet? It's in East Asia. Okay, that's a good start. Is Tibet a country? This is why it's a hard question. Is it a political nation state? It is not. Tibet is not a country. So what country or countries actually is Tibet a part of? Very interesting generation gap. See, when I was growing up, there's like the Beastie Boys and Free Tibet concerts and stuff like that. People sort of knew what nation Tibet was a part of. So what nation is Tibet a part of?
Is it a part of India?
I heard Nepal, I heard India, China too. Yeah, China's the big one. Like, let's say we want to use percentages, like 95% of the Tibetan plateau. So the Tibetan plateau is a geographical space, right? You can see it, you go to Google Maps. We could do that together, but I don't think it's worth it. Giant part of East and Central and even South Asia. At the southern end are the Himalayan mountains. And so that's the Nepal, Bhutan area, parts of India too. So some people said India, but most of it's part of China. Most of it's part of China. So I used to live in China. I speak Chinese, I speak Tibetan. Most of my research is in the Tibetan language. So that's why we're starting here. This is what I know the best. So I love that you guys recognize the Dalai Lama in this blurry little photo here. So that's definitely who he is. He's the 14th Dalai Lama. So what does it mean to say that he's the 14th? I gotta let people in as they arrive. Why is he the 14th, Jocelyn? True. Is that like president? What president is Joe Biden? 46? It'd be embarrassing if I got that wrong. Yeah, he's 46, right? So he's the 46th president. Is the Dalai Lama like that? He's the 14th Dalai Lama because it's some sort of political position. It's sort of like that, actually, but there's a little more to it. How is this different from Joe Biden being the 46th president?
14 doesn't seem like a lot.
It doesn't seem like a lot, does it? That's an important point. So what if it's a small number? What does that tell us?
Longer time being the Dalai Lama.
That's true. And in fact, it's an entire lifetime. Yeah. So Joe Biden, of course, 4 to 8 years, right? Dalai Lama could be up to like 100 years if he lives to be 100 years old. So that's an important point to keep in mind. But even that being true, maybe there's some math majors out there. If you do the math, let's say it's an average of 50 or 60 years, because some of them actually died young. It doesn't go back that far. The first Dalai Lama, he lived in the 15th century, I think it was. 15th? Yeah. So it's a little confusing because it's actually the third one that gets named and then it kind of gets retroactively activated. But yeah, early 15th century, the first one dies. And so not that long of an institution. Pretty long, right? Longer than the United States, for example, but not the, since the beginning of time or something like that. So how do we make sense of this? If he's the Dalai Lama for his whole life, how do they decide that? Yeah, so this is the question, right? How do you choose the next Dalai Lama? And there's actually a pretty cool movie. Do you guys know Martin Scorsese? Do you know who he is? He directed, I should say, I'll write it in the chat, a movie called Kundun, which is a Tibetan word. Like I said, Tibet was super hip in the 90s. People sort of forgot about it now, but this is what class is for, so I can tell you about these things. So Scorsese directed a film called Kundun, which is about this exact topic, right? Is selecting the next Dalai Lama. So when the 13th died, it was in the 1930s. There were kind of like interesting, mysterious things that they did, which we'll learn about in this class, actually. Some of these techniques used to perform divination. Have you heard of divination before? I like to write things on the board, but I think it's going to have to be in the chat for this class. Divination. So what's divination? Have you heard of divination before? Another related term is prophecy. What's a prophecy? You guys don't know this word? So here's something that maybe Jocelyn remembers from last semester. I'm going to throw words at you because the most kind of granular form of knowledge really comes down to words, doesn't it? Right? To get into college, you had to memorize a bunch of words for the SAT. You guys did you have to do that? Yeah, of course you did, right? So I'm going to hit you with words. Sometimes there'll be words that aren't that hard. I feel like prophecy is one you actually know, but nobody's brave enough to tell me what it means. But if you're in class and you hear a word and I'm like, hey, what's this word mean? And you don't really know, what can you do? You can Google it. You can look it up. And so then there's no shame in doing that, particularly in class, because then all the other classmates of yours that are wondering about this can enjoy the definition that you looked up and read for all of us. So did anybody look this up as I was talking? If you haven't yet, this is a good habit to get into. What about in the chat? Did anybody figure this out? Divination and prophecy?
It's like a prediction of something that's going to happen in the future.
Yes, very good. This was Catherine, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Catherine. So Catherine said prediction of something that's going to happen in the future. Exactly. Yeah. So prophecy, I think, is a little bit looser, right? This prediction about the future. Divination is usually like a ritual that people perform. And again, when you think of Buddhism, you might not think of rituals and this sort of thing, but as we're discussing, folks like the Dalai Lama, there are many rituals and practices that get tied up with him. And when deciding who is going to be the next Dalai Lama, a lot of it comes down to these prophecies and divination kind of practices. So he's the 14th. He's a very old man now. He was born in 1935, I'm pretty sure. So he's getting up there into his 80s. So he's the 14th Dalai Lama. So if we zoom out and come back to this space, this is a Buddhist temple. And we can guess now, or we can know now, that it's in the Tibetan tradition. How do we know it's in the Tibetan tradition? Is we have the Dalai Lama here, right? So why do you think he's there? I think it was Adam made a brave proposition that this might be a funeral service. I think now we know it's not, right? Because he's still alive. So from Adam's experience, when you have people's images up on a platform like this, you're commemorating them because they passed away. I think he's right to say that they're being commemorated, but why is he being commemorated here? Why is this picture here on the platform?
I might be wrong, but is it like a shrine of some sort? Like sort of a spiritual ritual?
Yeah, it's a shrine of some sort. Exactly. Have you guys ever been to a shrine like this before? Maybe not. Well, because it's the pandemic, we can't go here together. But maybe it's sometime in the future. Who's this guy in the middle above the Dalai Lama? That's kind of low-hanging fruit. It's the Buddha. How'd you know it's the Buddha, Jocelyn? You've seen this image before? Yeah, that's true. You've already heard all my jokes. So forgive me if I repeat anything. Well, but I'm going to push you and ask you to get a little more specific. So this is something we're actually going to do in class. There are things where you see the cover of this book and you think, oh yeah, Buddha, no problem, right? But if I ask you, how do you know that's the Buddha? It's not so easy to say, right? There's sort of, you just know, right? But actually, there are very specific things that might give us a clue, just for people in chat. So how do we know it's the Buddha?
I think we see like legs crossed,
Uh-huh.
like arms at his side.
Legs crossed, arms at his side, good. So where are his arms? Let's see. So he's got arms sort of here, sort of in the middle. This guy, you probably can't see it, but his arms are actually in a slightly different position. So, but the legs crossed is key. Can you guys cross your legs like this? It's kind of hard to do. If you look carefully where his legs are, so this leg is up on this thigh, and this leg is up on this thigh. It's called the full lotus position. If you ever do yoga class, they probably talk about this. Has anybody done this in yoga class? It takes some time to get there, though. Whenever I do it, my legs fall asleep and I'm very uncomfortable. So not going to do it for you. All right, so the legs cross is a good clue. What else? What else is special about the Buddha? What gives him away?
It's got those tightly curled hairs
Uh-huh.
going on. I feel like I've seen that before.
Yeah, tightly curled hairs. And for people in the chat, you can kind of see it on this guy too. Pretty weird haircut, right? And most people's hair does not really look like that, right? There's something very special happening with the way his hair is depicted. What about that bump? Do you notice he has a bump on his head? Do most people have bumps on their head like that? Usually not, right? It's sort of a weird thing. And there's a special word for that really only Buddhists have this bump on their head. And in fact, there's a whole list of characteristics for Buddhist iconography. They're called the marks and signs of the Buddha. There are various numbers that people give. A standard one is 81, I believe. You can look it up on Wikipedia to see the whole list. Some of them are going to be obvious here. Some of them are not. Various things about his hands and his feet. Even, well, I'll save the details. Look it up if you're curious. But kind of got a halo going on in the back here, right? The body's made out of gold. Here, the hands are kind of in this meditation position. The one on the cover of this book I'm going to ask you to buy, he's touching the ground. So we're going to learn about all these sorts of things. So this is, again, kind of how our class is going to proceed, right? I've given you this image. We started looking at it probably like a good 10 or 15 minutes ago. But there are all these little details that are wound up in this image, right? And so we will read books and talk about articles and try to kind of unwind these details. Now, are there other things we want to talk about? I think Jocelyn probably already knows the answer to this question, but where is this temple? Any guesses about where it is? Is that a hard question? India? And behind him? China or something? China, India? So we're just thinking, yeah, somewhere in Tibet, maybe? Does anyone think this
Is
is
it
probably not in
here?
Tibet?
Is it here in
Is it
America?
here? How do you know, Samuel Torres?
Because of the exit sign.
The exit sign! Yeah, it's a little bit of a trick. So I took this photo. This is in Brooklyn. It's the Oh, I gotta zoom out. It's the Dorjiling Buddhist Center in Brooklyn. I've only been here once. It's kind of far away and they don't have a ton of activities. If there were more activities, I would, again, bring people there. But these days, there are no activities. It's the worst being in New York with no activities, right? New York's so full of activities most of the time, and we just don't have them anymore. But yeah, so this is in Brooklyn. And it looks like it could be in India or in China or in Nepal or in Bhutan or somewhere else, but it's not. It's here, right? And so, you know, what's the point of this exercise is, well, actually many things. If we look for these details, we can learn a lot about something, but we got to kind of sit with it. And I know you guys are busy, and we live in a time where, you know, we're usually kind of getting most of our information by zooming through it. But I encourage you to sit with things. This is your rare chance to kind of think about stuff, right? And as this conversation shows, if we look carefully and wait, I already forgot who it was. Last name Torres. Samuel. So as Sam said, we can actually determine a lot of things. Even if you knew nothing about Buddhism, you could already determine that this is probably in the United States because this English language exit sign could be in Europe somewhere, who knows? Maybe they have English language exit signs in China. I'm sure they exist, but most of them will be in not English language, right? In Chinese or whatever native language there is for that country. So I think that's enough of that. Again, this is kind of giving you a taste of what we're doing in class. I think something I should have warned you about before class, but it's not too late, is please bring a device to class. I know in some classes, the professor probably tells you not to do that under most circumstances. I'm generally pretty lenient. If people like computers, bring them. If you don't like computers, don't. But for this class, a lot of what we'll be doing is online, right? Because we're hybrid. Some students are online, some students are here. For you to be able to talk to each other, I want you to bring a device of some kind. It could be your phone. Phones aren't great because it's like hard to type and it's hard to engage. But if you have like a tablet, a laptop, something like that, please bring it to class. You can go through the slides with me as we're going through. And I ask you to log into Zoom, right? So I've given you the Zoom link. So even if you're attending in person, please log into Zoom. That's where I take attendance. That's where I don't know, like you can see here, I type in the chat. Your classmates can type in the chat. You guys can talk to each other. And another big part of this class will be breakout rooms. And so we'll log into Zoom and then break out and we'll talk to each other. So again, I didn't emphasize this before class, but if you have a device of some kind, it could be a phone. Why don't we just try taking it out now? Do you guys have devices? I know it's weird that your professor is telling you to take out your phones rather than put them away, but you know, it's a weird semester. So you might have to like download things in order for this to work. And so if it's too much of a pain, you don't actually have to log in now. But if you're willing to give it a shot and want to log into Zoom, it's again not totally essential today, but going forward, please do bring a device and log in. But if you are willing to log in, please log in. You can find the link in the email I sent you last night. You can find it in the slides. You can find it on Moodle. I try to post things in multiple places that usually you can find it somewhere. So yeah, please get on Zoom. Maybe I'll hit the lights so we have a little bit of a different vibe going in class. Actually, I think I have a light switch. Yeah, do these work? They do work. Look at that. All right. So as people are getting onto the Zoom room, I can admit you. And so what I want you to do, and again, if you're not logging on Zoom, that's fine. You can still participate. What I want you to do is either open like a notepad, or you could even write on a piece of paper, whatever. I want you to write these three things. So your name, your hometown, and the best movie, show, book, or game, or some sort of pop culture thing that you enjoyed over the break. So please take just a couple minutes to do this. And the goal is I'm going to break you out into these breakout rooms, and we can actually kind of get to know each other. Sound good? Everybody understand what I'm asking you to do? I'll type it in the chat for the chat people. record the lecture parts, and I won't record the talking about things parts. Okay, so Moodle. You guys probably have used Moodle before. You know how Moodle works, right? If you don't, let's look at it. So this whole class is going to be run through Moodle. Let me move this to the side. Have you been to this page yet? So I made this for us. Introductions, that's today, right? And so it's basically a week by week schedule. If you ever want to know, hey, what are we doing today? You can go to Moodle and it will tell you. Now, I've sent you the syllabus. Here's the syllabus right here. I encourage you to look at this, right? It gives you more detailed information. I could read this to you, but I'm not going to. Attendance policy, because it's COVID, and if you feel even like a little bit sick at all, just don't come to class. You don't have to, right? Under normal circumstances, I'd be more of a hard ass. I say come to class, right? Because you have to. But now you really don't have to. So if you feel unwell at all, stay at home, get online, no judgment, right? I think maybe you're getting mixed signals. Are you getting mixed signals about this? Are some of your teachers being hard asses about it? Yeah, so like the deans and the people above me are saying be a hard ass about it. And I'm not going to be a hard ass about it because honestly, that's just dangerous. So if you don't feel well, stay home and just talk to me. If you're going to miss class, let me know what's going on. Again, it's so flexible because you can take class anywhere now, right? Half the class isn't in this room. You don't have to be in this room to take class. So, we'll figure it out, right? I can be flexible. You can be flexible. But health is number one. It always is number one, but it's definitely number one now. Deadlines is a little different. I will be a hard ass about deadlines. Actually, not really, but a little bit of a hard ass about deadlines is that you turn things in on time. If you don't, at the very least, talk to me, right? And we'll come up with a plan. If you don't talk to me and it's not in on time, that's when I'm really a hard ass. So turn in things on time, participate, right? I'm not like gonna calculate, this person participated and that person didn't. It's more of kind of a general judgment call. If you come to class and you participate and you're clearly prepared and ready to talk and took notes on the reading and came with questions and stuff, I'll be very impressed. And if you consistently do that throughout the course, you'll definitely get full points for participation. If you don't, then you might start to drop a little bit, right? So these things are tied together. Attendance, deadlines, participation, they're all kind of related categories. Plagiarism's bad, don't plagiarize. I'm serious. Grades, we'll have short writing assignments. In fact, we have one that is due next week. And I know that sounds a little bit soon, but I figure let's hit the ground running and kind of get on the same page early. And then if we're not on the same page, we can get on the same page. So, did somebody say something? Short paper, yeah. So what is a reading response? It's 2 pages. Short paper, due next week. I'll give you the details in a minute. They're going to be exams. They're going to be 2 exams. And there'll be a final paper. And that's it. Those are all the grades. There are books I want you to get. We'll talk about those in a minute. So here's the schedule, right? Here's today. And here's the detailed schedule going throughout. But that I just copied onto Moodle. So if you prefer Moodle, you can look at it here. Week number 2, we're going to do a little reading. So it says Monday 2-1. We're going to talk about elephants and blind men. We're going to read Keown. And you might be thinking, Bill, where do I get Keown? And then you can look down and here it is, right? So I've given you this whole book, Keown, Buddhism. Don't tell the cops. They might not like that I'm giving you whole books, but I'm going to do that anyway. So just read these sections before class, right? So again, this is part of participation. You do the reading before class. You come to class. Today we talked about ourselves and pop culture and that sort of thing, right? Next class, what are we going to talk about? The reading. Hey, but of course, we can tie it in with ourselves and pop culture and that sort of thing too. So again, one big part of this class is talking to each other about the reading, about life, about things that matter. about David Foster Wallace, about all these other things. So please do the reading before class. We only meet twice a week, so it might feel like, how many pages is this? 15. Yeah, it's like 30 pages. So not crazy. This book is one of these very short introduction books. Have you seen these before? They're like this big. So, you know, a page is actually not very much reading at all. Very short little pages. So it hopefully will not feel like too much stuff. And then, you know, I can lecture and kind of fill in the gaps too. And so this reading response, you might be wondering, what is this reading response that is already due next week? How cruel, right? You can go here and you can see what it is. So what is the reading response? So we're going to read about karma. Have you heard of karma before? Of course you have, right? Karma is a word that people use now. But what you're going to find is karma is a little different than what you might expect it to be. So I'm going to ask you to write a short little paper about karma and basically see what your understanding is and see if you learned, you know, between now and then what you've learned about karma. Does that make sense? It's not going to be like a really academic paper. We're going to read these stories about karma, and I'm going to ask you to write your own karma's tale, write your own short karma tale and analysis. So basically, here's this story that illustrates karma. Here's my little analysis of karma. And again, it might feel a little bit early, but the goal is to just sort of get the wheels moving before you get busy with all of your other classes. And then, as you will see, there won't be a ton of assignments after that. So we'll have this assignment, and then things will just be reading, and then we'll have an exam, right? So this is your first and last assignment for 5 weeks. So hopefully that doesn't sound too difficult. Any questions so far? Is that pretty clear? So again, syllabus is here. I emailed it to you. I posted it all over the place. If you can't find it, you can email me, but really it's everywhere. So read the syllabus. I told you about announcements. This button here is a little bit small, but this is where my emails are coming from, right? Welcome to Buddhism class. I sent it last week. And so you might think, oh, I didn't get that email. And then you can just go here and you'll find it. There's the Zoom link. The Zoom link is not going to change. It's always going to be that same link. And here's our Moodle link. But if you're looking at it from Moodle, you probably already know that one. Okay, so that should all be pretty clear. We got a question in the chat. Will we be meeting both days of the week? Yes. So this week is a weird week. We start on a Wednesday for some reason, so we only have today's class. Next week, we'll meet on Monday, and then we will meet on Thursday, and that will continue for the entire semester. So yeah, meeting twice a week. Other questions about stuff? Okay, so most of the reading I will give to you. So for example, Keon, Lopez, all of that is on PDF. All of that is on Moodle. Again, Moodle is your friend. It's your source of information. But I do want you to get 2 books. They're short books. They're not expensive books, but they're books nonetheless. I encourage you to get the books. I can't force you to, but I enjoy reading books. You can write in books. You can smell a book, right? I find I remember physical copies of books better. Do you guys find that? I don't know if this is like scientifically proven, but like I'm reading, and there's sort of a spatial thing that happens where I think, oh yeah, that was up on like the top left corner of some page, right? Where was that? Oh yeah, there it is. So I encourage you to get the physical copy of the book because you will remember it better. And even though this is short and kind of big print, it's a sort of a challenging book. This book's a little easier to read. This book's actually a little challenging. It's a translation. And so as we read it, there'll be challenging words and ideas, and I encourage you to circle them and star them and underline them just like I do in my copy, right? And again, this is my bread and butter. I know all about Buddhism, and yet I'm still circling and starring things and underlining them. So I encourage you to do the same. That's how you really engage with a book. That's how you really internalize it, right? And of course, there will be an exam if you need a threat in order to motivate you. So please do buy the book. If you don't buy the book, again, I'm not going to find out or anything, but you're not doing yourself any favors either. If you can't find the book and you need help finding the book, I'm obviously available to help you too. Get this one first because we're going to read this really soon. I can give you a PDF for these first couple chapters because we're going to start reading it the week after next. So by February 8th, we're going to start reading it. So I encourage you to just get it, right? Get it now, get it this afternoon, order it from Amazon. You don't even have to 2-day ship it. It'll come before the 8th, no problem. If you wait for a while, it might not come. This one, we won't read until the end of the semester. And in between, we'll have a bunch of PDFs and other various things. So that's basically everything. Let me get the slides again. So, coming up, Moodle weekends, just try to keep up with the reading on the Karma Tales. You already have your prompt for the short paper, so you don't have to wait for class to write it, but I encourage you to at the very least read these things, because I think you will find your understanding of karma and the Buddhist understanding of karma is going to be a little bit different. So I encourage you to open your mind and expand your understanding of karma for this short assignment. All right, nothing else in the chat. These are the books. Any last questions? That's basically all I've got for today. We all good? Okay, well, that was good. I feel like we had a nice discussion of the Buddhist temple. It's always a question about where that conversation will go, but it sounds like you guys have some good background on Buddhism and, of course, the curiosity necessary to learn more. So I think this is going to be a good class. 7:45 in the morning is early, and I'm happy to show up. I'm not going to say I'm a morning person, but I will show up. If nobody else shows up, I'm going to stop showing up, though. So if you want to show up, I'll be here. If you don't, then I won't either. So we'll just see how that goes throughout the semester. All right. Well, have a good day, everybody. You are free to go about your business. Let me shut down the Zoom room. All right. Goodbye, everybody. It was nice hanging out with you, and I'll see you all next time. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.